Hello and welcome back to your Tuesday training on Freelance with Erica. I'm Erica Null, a top 1% Upwork freelancer, and I help beginner freelancers get started specifically on Upwork, but in their freelancing career for people that are looking to build an online business and aren't sure where to start. If you are not currently a member in my free beginner community, it's located on Substack, freelancewitherica.substack.com. If you happen to be listening on the podcast, I want you to know that I will do my best to narrate things that are on the screen. But as part of these trainings, there typically is a video that goes along with a written tutorial that I send out to my beginner group. So if you join that Substack community, every week this will go directly into your inbox with the actual video along with the written training. So if that's of interest, please make sure to join. It's totally for free. But again, if you're listening on the podcast, there might be some things that are visual, and I will do my best to describe it, but it may be more helpful to actually see that on the recorded video. All right. So today's training, let's go ahead and just get right into it. This hopefully should be a shorter training. But I have created a new resource for you, and I'm going to walk you through that resource while also providing some additional context and training around this. So if you are not new to my world, you have probably been hearing me talk quite a bit about my 10 days to paid Upwork challenge. That is an entirely free Upwork course to get started in freelancing. So it is over 12 hours of video trainings, written tutorials, all the tools that you need to basically go from I have no idea what I would even offer as a freelancer to I've just landed my first jobs, gotten paid, and gotten a 5-star review. So I hold nothing back. You get literally everything that you need. But as we now have people beginning to work their way through the program, I'm starting to notice some different trends and some questions coming up that I thought this was a great opportunity to kind of zoom in on where potentially there may be some hiccups for people as they're trying to get their momentum and land their first clients. So what I don't want to do in this training is I don't want to reteach everything that's inside of the course because I've already created that for you. It's in there, and a number of you are going through that program. So I don't want you to have to sit and listen through me reiterate those same things. So you may hear me reference like this is inside the course, or you'll be able to get all the details about this. So while I won't go into every single item, on this resource in super detail, that's because it's already lives inside of 10 days to paid. And this is meant to be supplemental to help you as you're navigating that program to help get better results, quicker results as you move through it. Okay. I'm just looking here on my notes. So one of the things that I'm noticing, so in 10 days to paid, one of the things that I teach you is that it will never be harder than it is when you're very first getting started and you're trying to land your first clients. That's the hardest part, is breaking through, right? Because there is a large amount of people freelancing, not just on Upwork, on all the different platforms, and trying to get your very first clients when you don't yet have reviews, you don't yet have the social proof, you don't have a job success score, you're totally new to the platform. It's you trying to find someone willing to take a chance on you. So in the program, I go through how we overcome that. But one of the biggest challenges with it is it does require, one, showing up consistently, and two, being willing to push through this hard part so that everything gets easier. Once you get past that first job and those first reviews, then you start to have that proof. Now you're going to get a job success score, assuming you did a great job on your first landed contract, which you will. I walk you through and teach you how to make sure we're delivering excellent work, how to protect your reputation. Then you get a job success score. Then you start getting testimonials, right? And now you start having the stats working in your favor, that it will take less applications to get the next job and less applications to get the next job. But for a lot of people, there's always excitement when we first start something, right? Like dopamine's high, it's exciting. We're sending out proposals, we're like waiting in anticipation of getting responses. And so when people are taking the time and going through and thoughtfully creating these proposals, sending them out, and like waiting for that exciting moment of someone messaged or someone sent me a contract, and then it doesn't come, it's really easy for that to become quickly demoralizing and for that to begin begin to really take a hit on your motivation and on how you show up and your excitement about it, right? And so I'm definitely noticing a dip that as people are getting about halfway through the program, where they probably are getting somewhere between 10 to 20 proposals out there, that if they're not hearing back, I think that there's a lot of potential, like, well, maybe this isn't going to work for me, right? It's a chance for your brain to start doing what brains do, start telling you all the reasons why this isn't going to work for you, or why it's different for me, or why it was different for River, my kiddo, which we used as the use case as we went through. And to be fair, River had excellent results with a lot less proposals than I expected, honestly, for him to land his first job, but he also had me in his back pocket, right? He had an unfair advantage. I literally had eyes on proposals going out. I had eyes on responses and how things were being done. So that's my goal, is that as I work with you guys, as you work through this program, I want to keep refining this and tightening this up so that you can follow this without necessarily needing me over your shoulder, reviewing everything and telling you what to do. But in the meantime, you'll see, I'm in the group, I'm doing proposal reviews, I'm offering to do profile reviews, right? Like, I want to give you everything that you need to make sure that you can get through this hardest part so that we can start to get you that momentum in freelancing. So with that, knowing that people are kind of getting stuck in that like proposal purgatory of not getting responses and then motivation dips, I have a few different things. So like I said, I've got this resource I'm going to go through with you, which is I've created a checklist of what I think are the most important things to make sure that you're ticking as far as the best chance of getting it open and read, the best chance of getting a response, but also just making sure that when you're spending those connects and you're choosing jobs, you're choosing the ones that are going to give you the best chance of potentially it turning into a landed contract. Okay. So this is just going to be a tool to further help you make sure that you're really zooming in and targeting on the best types of jobs to be applying for. Because while what I teach is 5 proposals a day, that's the ideal. Everything that I teach, though, guys, I want you to take with a grain of salt. It doesn't, if you can't find 5 ones that feel really good to apply for, I don't want you just grabbing random ones for the sake of saying you did 5 and applying for them. Okay. So we want to make sure that they actually meet this criteria, that they're good fits. And while 5 may sound like something pretty quick to do, if you've actually been in this challenge, you probably learn pretty quickly that it actually takes more time than you think. Especially, again, when you're a beginner, everything takes longer. It's just you're in a learning curve, right? It's a skill that you're building and it's going to take longer. You also are going to need to do quite a bit of experimentation to figure out what is working best for you, your personality, the types of clients that you're targeting. So with that, while 5 jobs a day may not sound like a lot, it actually can take up a considerable amount of time to, if you're really being choosy about which clients you apply to. So I want to make sure that we're using that time to your advantage, that if you're going to be really intentional in who you're choosing to apply to and in creating those proposals, that we're maximizing your time spent so that you're going to get the best return possible for that time spent in creating proposals. I also want to, again, where I said it will never be harder, you're going to send out a disproportionate amount of number of proposals out into the world, then you're going to get back in responses and jobs landed. Okay. When I went into this, my intention with 10 days to pay, if you follow the 5 a day, starting on day 3 is when we start sending out proposals. That's 40 applications, guys. And that was the intention, is that I want to normalize, and I want you guys to set in your head that it may take 40 or 50 proposals. Now, there's so many different factors that can vary into this, including just what jobs happen to be on the market during the week that you happen to be working through this challenge, right? Like sometimes there's just better fit jobs that land at different times. And that's why I don't want you to force it, that if there's not great ones, don't try and force it just because it's day 4 and I said do 5 more applications, that you have to do more applications. I want you to make sure that, again, you're spending those connects on Upwork wisely, and that we're getting the most bang for our buck for the effort that you're putting in. That's really important. All right. So What's most important during this period is that you just continue to show up consistently. You continue to do the actions that are going to move you towards that first contract. And then as long as you're doing all the things that are taught, it's a numbers game. It will shake out in the end. Okay. But we have to make sure again that we're being smart in how we attack it. So what I want to go through, I'm going to share my screen and I want to, um, give me one moment here. Yeah. All right, I'm going to share my screen and you should be seeing now, this is a interactive checklist that I have created for you. So it's a proposal checklist. Again, I'm not going to go super deep into detail, except for maybe this first one about the hook. I also have context beneath each of these to make it more clear. And again, all of these things, all of these points that I go through in this checklist are all things that I deep dive inside of 10 days to paid. But this is more so just to give you a centralized resource so that you can check yourself as you're creating a proposal to make sure, did I do these things? Does it meet this criteria? Because if it meets that criteria, then chances are you are putting out really high quality proposals that are going to have a higher chance of landing you back messages and landed jobs. Okay. So with this proposal, it's pretty straightforward, this checklist. I'll have a link down below in the training. I also am going to update the curriculum for 10 days to paid. So if you are newly signing up to that, it will be in one of your emails that comes through, probably on day 3 when we start doing applications. So I'll update that to include this checklist as a new resource. Okay. So there's 8 things that I want you to focus on when you're sending out a proposal to make sure that you're sending out the most high quality potential ones that we can. All right. With this, it's going to keep track of what percentage you are on here. You can reset it at any time. So this is meant to be do a proposal, reset it, do it again, right? And then it also has, like I said, additional details in it, along with a link to an additional deep dive training from a previous Tuesday training here for extra reference. And then if you have not signed up for 10 days to paid, but you're interested in doing it, the link to do that is right down here at the bottom. All right. So we're just going to start here at the top and I'm going to walk through each of these 8 things that I want you to focus on in order to make sure we're maximizing the proposals that you're sending out. All right. And then after that, I'm going to talk through additional ways that I can help you and I want to help you, especially if you're going through the program, following it as taught, so that I can step in and help you, that if you are stuck in that proposal purgatory and you've sent out 20, 25, 30 proposals and you're not getting movement, I want to offer additional assistance to you to help make sure that we can get things moving in the right direction. Okay. So again, it's sticking with it to push through these first few jobs. Everything gets easier after that. I promise you. All right. So with this proposal checklist, the first thing is, and this is, again, if you've gone through the training, you've heard me harp on this so much, and so much so that I already have done a previous Tuesday training about this, the importance of learning how to write attention hijacking hooks and headlines. So if you're new to my world, I got my start as a sales copywriter. So that's what when I got started on Upwork as I specialized and I moved into sales copywriting, this is a huge piece of what I do as a freelancer and a copywriter, is learning how to write copy that emotionally connects, that evokes an emotional experience or feeling for a person, that speaks directly to what a person desires, wants, needs, and not necessarily what's on the surface of what we think they want and need, but what's actually beneath that, right? What sort of pains are they experiencing? And so really it requires the ability to kind of empathize and sit in the seat of the person that you're trying to talk to, and making sure that you really can understand what is going to move the needle for them, what is important to them. And the better you can get at that, combining it with best practices to stand out in any possible way that you can to stop the scroll and to disrupt their thinking, the higher chance you're going to have of them clicking through on your profile. So inside 10 Days to Play, I actually take you behind the scenes and show you the client view so that you can see what they see when you send a proposal. And the main thing that they see beyond your headline of your main proposal and your stats is they see the first 1 to 2 sentences of your proposal. So I call that your opening hook. All right. That proposal hook matters more than just about anything else you put in that proposal, because for the majority of these clients, they are just going to scroll down. They're waiting for something to pop out. And that popping out a lot of times can look like just looking at the stats, right? If someone is top rated, if someone has 100% job success score, if someone has thousands of hours clocked, right? That's one way, that's one thing on the screen that can stop their attention and make them focus in and be like, oh, that's interesting, right? So because we don't have that benefit, we have to create our own, oh, that's interesting moments. And so you have a very limited amount of real estate that you can use to do that. And one is the headline in your profile, and the other is your opening hook on your proposal. So I talk about this so much because it's so important. It's literally like probably the number one skill for landing your first job is getting really good at writing those headlines and hooks. So there's a link right here. It'll take you into a full training that I did to get better at writing proposals and hooks. But I did write up one example that I wanted to show you guys the difference between this. So when it comes to hooks to again, I'm not going to go totally into this full training because there's a whole training on it. But one of the things I like to do when I'm trying to make sure that I'm writing a really good proposal with a strong hook is you can go ahead and use the prompt that I've given you inside 10 days to paid, right? And it will generate probably pretty good, compelling proposal for version 1.0. But that opening hook, that's worth, if it's not very strong, if you don't read it and be like, dang, like that's so good, right? Like if that's not your response when you read it to be like, oh, that's good, that's powerful, that's punchy, right? If you don't have that feeling, then chances are you need to rewrite that hook. And so what I like to do is using AI, I will say, here's the job I'm applying for. Here's my proposal. Like, here's the details. So you're giving it context. And then I'll say, I want, and there's actual prompts. So if you follow this previous Tuesday training, I actually already have a prompt in there. You guys can copy and paste, giving AI instructions over how to write a compelling, punchy hook. But basically, you're going to give it that context. I want to write a really strong attention hijacking hook for this client that emotionally connects or uses one of these other variations. And so again, in this training, I'll go through all the details, but like humor, stats, asking a question, there's lots of different ways you can disrupt attention. All right. And then I'll ask it, give me 20, 30, 50 hooks. Like just give me a list, right? And for me, I like to have a list and then I scan down that list. And this is going to sound a little woo-woo. But again, it's a skill that you learn over time. And I think part of it comes from having a good sense of empathy and being able to step into someone else's shoes. But what I want you to do is when you get that list of 20, 30, 50 hooks and you're trying to find the best one, what you're doing is you're doing it for yourself. You're scanning just like a client does down that list. And you're waiting to read one that there is, for me, it's almost like a bodily reaction that happens where you should feel some emotion. There should be some feeling, and it's something enough that it stops. It could just be that it was humor, right? And sometimes that's all it takes. It's funny. And so it stopped the scroll because you're like, ha, that's kind of funny, right? And it makes you smile because it was funny. So you're having a physical response to what you read. Sometimes it can just be, and a lot of times this is the feeling I get, but I'll be reading down the list and it'll just be like, oh, that's good, right? Like, and so then I'm having that response of almost like the casino slot factor, like you won, right? Like you're looking through this whole list and you're like, bingo, that's the one, right? And so again, it's a skill that you got to learn, but I want you to learn how to curate your hooks and to really play around with having AI help you write stronger hooks that are going to grab attention. All right. And so one example I wrote down just to kind of give you guys a way to think about this. So with the beginner friendly jobs, so one of the things I teach in 10 days to paid are two different types of jobs you're going to apply for. Disproportionately, we're going to look for those beginner friendly general jobs, which means that this may not be specific to the niche you picked. And instead, you might be looking for stuff like taking a survey, looking at someone's app or website and giving feedback, doing a research project, right? Like they're usually very high level, general assistant sort of jobs, quick, fast. A lot of times they're hiring multiple people for that job. And our goal is we just want to get you on the scoreboard, right? We want to start getting stats in your favor. And it's okay if it's not niche specific, at least for this first one, two, maybe even three, depending on how many proposals you send out and responses you get back. So sometimes when you're doing a generalized one like that, let's say it's just like survey feedback from a website, right? It can feel kind of weird to figure out like how do I write a super compelling hook for that isn't just going to be like blah blah that they scroll past. And so I want you to remember like a big part of creating attention hijacking hooks is to purposely disrupt attention by giving them what they're not expecting. Like that's equally as important. So while they're getting a gazillion applications with people being like, I'd love to help you with your survey for your website, or I'm, blah, blah, I'm attention detail. Like, don't be afraid to use your newbie status on Upwork to like talk about something that's like just completely unrelated. So instead of that opening hook being all about what you can do for them with this survey, when we know that they're hiring 50 people at bulk and they're just looking for people they feel are competent enough to finish the task, right? That's a good chance for you to use. I was just looking, I thought I had written it down. Maybe I didn't. It's a good chance for you to use your newbie status, maybe even. And that's just one example. You can use a lot of different things to disrupt or to lead with something that people aren't expecting. But River, my kiddo, when he did it, we made his profile headline say, zero Upwork reviews, 100% committed to wow you, right? Like, so we led with the fact it had nothing to do with what he was looking to offer as a freelancer or anything else, but we led with something that's going to capture attention because it's not what people expect. They're scrolling through a list of people listing off their skills, their tasks that they do, the different things, and then instead his was in sentence form and calling out himself the fact that he was new, that he had no reviews, right? So like dismantling that potential objection before we even get there, right? So same thing with these proposal hooks. And so I wrote down an example of, again, using the survey and the website thing. So a very typical sort of AI generated, if you don't give it context and tell it exactly what you want, and you just ask it, write me a proposal for this, you will get a bunch of what I call blah, blah copy, meaning eyes glaze over, people are scanning past it because it's what every other proposal is coming through, right? Like it's super generic. There's nothing compelling. It is definitely not emotionally connecting. And so an example of that, and this, I had AI write it. I gave them the context of what the job would be, that it was survey for beginner freelancers, providing feedback. And what it wrote was, I'd be happy to provide a comprehensive review of your website and deliver actionable feedback through a structured survey format, right? That is the epitome of what I call blah, blah copywriting. Is it technically correct? Yes. Is it grammatically correct? Yes. Like, does it touch on what they're asking for? Yes. It is also boring and it will not disrupt that person's attention as they're scrolling. As they are going through and they are scrolling through on this, they are going to just, it's going to blend right into the background, just like beige paint, right? And they're on to the next one. So instead, what if instead, so again, we're thinking about what does this person really want? What is this hiring person? If we're sitting in their shoes, trying to think about what's going to matter the most to them, what are their wants, needs, desires, pains, right? So we know they're getting ready to hire 50 different people, right? They're looking for 50 different freelancers. They want to get feedback on this site, probably for some sort of project, right? Want to get some user experience in there. So we know that this person is probably not necessarily overwhelmed, but like they've got a big task ahead of them. They've got to sort through and find 50 different people worthy of hiring, right? They probably are worried about timelines and how long is it going to take to get 50 people through to get what they want, the quality of the work, right? So we're starting to think through, again, we're sitting in their seat and we're thinking through what are the things that are going to matter most to them, right? They want someone dependable. They want someone that's going to be quick with the task. They want someone that they're not going to have to babysit or manage through it, right? The more you can take off their plate, the better. So what if instead of, I'd be happy to provide a comprehensive review of your website and deliver actionable feedback through a structured survey format, what if instead your opening sentence that shows on that screen when they're scrolling down everyone else's stuff in a sea of first sentences, just like the one I read you, instead it said, need this done quickly, clearly, and without a single follow-up, I've got you, right? Like, and so we're making it conversational, right? We're not doing the blah blah corporate marketing professional speak, but we're also speaking to the things that we're kind of crawling into their brain about the things that they may be potentially worrying about, things that we know that they want. And we're just putting it front and center, like a little present with a bow on it, saying, here it is. This is exactly what you're looking for. And so then when they're scrolling down, it's more likely to grab their attention. And so we want to get them out of that passive mode of scrolling into active thinking. And the only way you can get someone to switch into that is to disrupt the filtering and the scanning that they're doing by using words and visuals in order to get to pull the eye and to get them to kick into more deliberate thinking mode. Okay. Because when you can do that, now you've made a connection. The moment you get them to stop scrolling, you've made a connection. You're way more likely to get them to hit that open button and way more likely to get them to respond. All right. So I spent quite a bit of time on that one because it's, again, the most important. The rest of these, we're just going to, again, stay high level. But so that's number one. You're going to complete a compelling proposal hook. I want you also to experiment with these. So after you do your first round using the prompts and stuff that I gave you, I want you to play around with, try some with humor, try some that are pain point specific, try some that lead with a question or a statistic, right? Like try some making fun of your newbie status, right? Like I really want you to just play with it so that you can start to figure out, and as you use your proposal tracker, you're going to start to figure out which ones are performing best, which ones are people responding to best. And again, that's going to be totally unique to each person. Otherwise, I would tell you it's humor ones, guys. Like humor ones worked really well for me, but I also was a sales copywriter, right? It was very specific to my niche. I don't know that humor would necessarily perform well if you're wanting to do website design, right? It might. I think humor is kind of universal, but that's where I want you to experiment with these things. Your personality also has a big part to do with it. So I want you to play around, especially once you get past that first batch of proposals, and start to really play with your hooks so that you can start to figure out what is working, what's getting people to open them and getting them to respond. The second one, I want to make sure that you're offering strategic pricing discounts. So again, this is all taught inside the program, but if you are leading with that $25 an hour price point on your profile, we do that on purpose, especially during these beginning jobs, so that you have room to steeply discount it down. All right. And again, because we have to employ every option available to you as a beginner, because we have to overcome the lack of stats on your account as a beginner, money is one of the best ways that you're going to be able to create some urgency and interest as a beginner. It's one of the few things. Now, as you continue to grow, as we scale you, we're going to move away from being a discount money based sort of person into premium pricing. And we're definitely going to scale you up very quickly into premium pricing. But as a beginner, these first few jobs, we're purposely going to, we're not going to do it for free, but we're going to do it at a very, very steeply discounted one. So I don't want you to be afraid that if you're at 25 an hour, tell them I'm taking $10 an hour off of this job for you because I want to prove myself as a beginner. I'm so eager to earn my first 5-star review that I'm happy to give you that discount. It's a win-win, right? Like, and again, all that language is in the prompts in there, but make sure that you're doing that, that you're strategically offering pricing discounts. Same thing with flat fee. If it's a flat fee job that you're applying for, it's 50, $100, knock some money off of it. So if it's a $50 job, offer to do it for 35 or 40. If it's a $100 job, maybe propose to do it for 70 or $80. But I want you to give pretty significant pricing discounts, enough that you're going to stand out to that person and give them a reason to more seriously consider you, even though you don't have the stats yet and you're still a newbie. All right, next one, polishing your writing with AI. So again, in the training, I go way in depth with this, especially teaching you how, in my opinion, is the best way to use AI, which is you're still going to use your brain. You're still going to bring your own creative thoughts, the things that you want to say, but then you use AI as a tool to help you clean that up so that what we're presenting back to the clients is polished, grammatically correct. But it doesn't have to be AI. If you prefer to write your own stuff, it could be Grammarly, but I just want to make sure that what you are sending out the door is both visually polished and grammatically professionally polished. Now, that does not mean I don't want you to have the generic AI jargon, blah, blah stuff that I just read you. And that is exactly what you'll get the majority of the time. If you just take a job on Upwork and you pop it into AI and say, hey, help me write a proposal for this, is garbage. Like it's garbage. So you have to be super intentional in getting AI that if you're going to have it do the writing for you, you need to make sure that you're prompting it in a way to get the sort of output that's really strategic and smart in what you're doing. And eventually, as you build these skills and you get more and more comfortable writing your own proposals, your own profile, that's where I really want you to lean into sharing the, using your critical thinking and sharing the key pieces you want the client to know, the key things you want to do. And you can brain dump that, just stream of consciousness into a doc. That's how I do it. And then you pop it into AI and say, help me write this in this format, right? Touching on these points, using the way that I write. And here's an example of my writing style. And then it does it for you. So you can, like I said, you can write your own. That's fine. And in fact, I encourage you to bring as much of your own thinking and writing to it as possible, but make sure that you then pop that in through AI. And so I do that a lot. Stream of consciousness is very easy for me. Like I'm just thinking something and I'll literally, it's the most garbage grammar mess that you've ever seen, right? Like run on after run on, misspellings, no punctuation, but I'm brain dumping all the stuff in my brain that I want to say. I do that with these trainings, right? I brain dump all my thoughts around it. And then what I do is I have a trained AI session that has been trained on the way that I write, my writing style, my word choices. And then I just pop that in and say, can you help me clean this up? Keep as much of the same word choices and phrases as possible, but help me make this more clean. And then it will take it and it's beautiful. It's like you have an editor that just goes through. And so it's all of your original thoughts and ideas that you had, but now it has been polished beautifully by AI. Okay. So I just want to make sure what's going out the door is polished and professional. So use your favorite AI tool, use Grammarly, but make sure that we're checking our stuff. Okay, these next ones I call recency and decency. So recency is I want you to make sure that the jobs that you're applying for, the more recent they are, so if they've gone up today or within the last few days, those are always going to be higher quality, higher likelihood of getting hired for jobs than the further out that you get. It's not that you can't apply to jobs that are further out, but I want you to be super intentional if you choose to apply to a job that's further out. So all the time, there are people that will post jobs and they won't hire for a week or 2 weeks. So I don't want you to necessarily dismiss a job application just because it was posted 2 weeks ago. But I do want you to go do some sleuthing before you decide if you're going to use your connects on it. So one, how many connects does it cost? Two, what is their percentage of jobs filled? So that's one of the things that you're able to see in the sidebar on Upwork, and it will tell you how frequently, like it'll say like they have a 70% hire rate, meaning that if they put 10 jobs out, 7 out of the 10 they hire for. Now, if that person has a 50% or higher hire rate, I would still potentially apply for that job if I thought it was a really great fit for what I was looking to do. And if it otherwise met the other criteria and it wasn't costing a ton of connects, I would still potentially apply to that job because they have a history of typically filling their jobs. But if you see one where the person has a 20 or a 30% higher rate, then I wouldn't necessarily waste my connects on something that's 2 weeks old because chances are they are not going to be hiring or filling that position. Same thing too with looking at how many freelancers they're hiring for a job. Many times with these beginner jobs, they're hiring multiple people, and it will tell you on the job listing they're looking to hire 10 people or they're looking to hire 50 people. So a lot of times those jobs may be longer term jobs that are out there because they're just hiring as applications come in. So what I want you to do with those is I want you to look and see, it'll tell you how many people have been hired. So if it says that they want to hire 20 freelancers, even though they posted it a week or two ago, but they've only hired 3, then that's still potentially a good one, right? But I do want you to be mindful and keeping an eye on how long ago was this posted, and is this the type of job that if it was posted a week, 2 weeks ago, Do I have the hallmarks that make this still a decent job to apply for? Otherwise, I want you to focus on the more recent ones, the ones today, last few days, a week or less, right? So recency. The next one is what I call decency. So client quality. So with this is where I want you to also be doing a little bit of checking on these clients. So in 10 Days to Paid, I go through how to spot scams because there's a decent amount of scam jobs that get applied for and the different hallmarks we should be looking for in order to verify that this is the type of client we want to potentially work with. But a couple of the things and why I call it decency that I want you to look at that again is just helping set yourself up for success and being choosy and who we're going to spend our connects on and apply to jobs for is that when it comes to the client quality, I want you to look at that client star rating. So just like how you're going to earn a star rating from clients, clients also earn a star rating from the freelancers. And I can tell you that for most freelancers, even if they have a bad experience with a client, most of the time they're not going to give them a poor rating. Most of the time they still give them good ratings because the dynamic is one where they're the ones getting paid, right? And the client is the one that hires. And so usually, unless bridges have just been totally burned, a lot of times the freelancer tends to be a lot more forgiving in the rating that they give the client than necessarily the other way around of the client towards the freelancer. So if you check that client's rating and if they have less than 4 stars, but they have more than 20 reviews, so sometimes that score can be a little thrown off if they only have 1 or 2 ratings or just a handful of ratings, right? Just one rating can really tank that. So I don't want you to necessarily write someone off if they have a small amount. But if they have 20 or more reviews and if their score is less than a 4, and even low 4s, I would be hesitant, right? They should have a 4 or more because we know that freelancers tend to be overly generous with their scores. So that's the first thing. If you see that they have less than that 4, I would just skip that job. Even if it seems perfect, I would skip that job because our primary goal here is to land you a really positive reputation building review and 5-star score and positive private feedback that they give Upwork when they're done with the job, right? So if you go into it with a client that has a proven track record from other freelancers saying like, hey, I had problems with them, then your chances of landing a successful first job where you're going to get that great testimonial and your 5-star review go down. So I want to make sure we're setting you up for your best chance for success. So check that star score. And then also one of the things that I really like to do is I like to go look into their job history. So when you're sitting inside the job, and you're getting ready to apply, you can actually look down at other jobs that that client has and the job history, and you can see the reviews that they're leaving with people. And so that's a really good way for you to quickly see whether or not do they have a history of leaving a written review for their freelancers, and are they generally kind and positive and thoughtful in those reviews, or are they only being like I've seen ones for where like they only leave a review when it's a negative experience and otherwise the positive ones they aren't, or they're leaving a review but it's just like something super generic like great experience, would work with again, right? That doesn't mean if they do that, that doesn't mean that you won't do it, but it means we're going to be super intentional in how we prompt them at the end of the job to get a review that's more in line with the type that we want. So mainly I want you looking for the hallmarks of this is someone that likes to complain or leave negative reviews. Like that's more important. So I want you to look and see what's their history. Are they leaving kind, thoughtful, nice reviews? Are they leaving reviews at all? If they're leaving frequently negative reviews for people or low scores. So if it's anything less than a 5, let's say that you look down and you see that one's 4.5, one's 4.2, one's, 3.9. If they're doing that, swipe past. That's also another one we don't want. They don't meet our decency rule. Okay, so client quality, very important. Next one, job availability. So I touched on this just a little bit ago, but with job availability, again, it will tell you on the job, are they just hiring one person? Are they hiring 10 people, right? And with that, it also will show the status. It will show how many jobs have people applied, how many people have applied to that job, right? So it might tell you there's 20 to 50 applications on this job. It will show you a number called interviewing. And interviewing means this is how many people they've sent a message to. Sometimes this number can be a little bit misleading because they can invite people to their job. So after they post a job, Upwork sends them to a search list of all the people that are in the niche that they're applying for, the job is for, and they'll say, you can invite, I can't remember, it's 10 or 20, but you can invite 10 or 20 freelancers to this job. And so a lot of times, and it already comes with them pre-selected so that they could just like hit send if they want. They make it pretty easy. Or the client can go through and they can hand select people and invite them. If they invited someone to the job, anybody who responds to that is automatically an interview. And so it can look misleading. Like you might look at it and be like, oh, there's already 5 interviews on it. But those 5 interviews may have just been people that they hit that button at the end, it auto sent invites, and now those people have responded back with proposals. And so they're automatically considered an interview because they were specifically invited to the job. That does not mean that person's going to hire that person. I've seen a lot of times where clients are just hitting that button because it's the next step in the workflow. So I wouldn't get too hung up on the hired or too hung up on the interviewed. But what I do want you to look at is the hired. That's the next number. So it'll show hired and it'll give you a number. So if you're looking at a job and it doesn't say that they're hiring 10 or 20 or 50 people, it just seems like a single freelancer job, and you look at hired and you see a 1 there, then even if that job seems perfect, I would not waste your connects on that. Sometimes clients don't close out the job listing, and so it will still stay open, but that job isn't actually available. Same thing for if they're hiring 20 people and you see that they've hired 22 or 19, then that may not be a great fit to use your connects on. So I want you to make sure that you're double confirming, is this job actually available based on the hires compared to the number of people that they're hiring? And does it seem like this is a good use of my connects for this job? The next one is focusing on beginner friendly jobs. So in detail in the coursework for 10 Days to Paid, I go into how we define these beginner friendly jobs. The main thing though here, the main lesson that I'm wanting to emphasize as we zoom in on this is that I teach that there's 2 different types of beginner jobs that you can focus on. So one is the generalized beginner jobs and one is your niche specific beginner jobs. And I give you 2 different strategies on how to attack these. If you are not getting much in the way of responses and you are leaning heavily into beginner niche jobs, I want to encourage you to shift your focus over and your search efforts over to those general beginner jobs. I know it's counterintuitive. I know that sounds weird, especially if you have a bunch of experience and whatever it is that you want to offer, that you're like, girl, I've been a graphic designer for 10 years. Why can I not just apply to these graphic design jobs? Again, you certainly can, but landing that first job as a beginner without any stats to prove it, you are up against super talented graphic designers with a whole profile full of social proof, happy clients, testimonials, stats for days, that your chance of competing with them right now in this moment is going to be extremely difficult. So if you are disproportionately applying to beginner niche ones, I want you to shift that focus over to the general beginner ones. And as I teach in there, really, I want your focus to be like an 80-20. That if you can, right? But if you can't find the general ones, go ahead and look for beginner niche ones. But if you feel like you're sending out a disproportionate amount of proposals in comparison to the responses coming in, that would be one of my guesses, is that a lot of the proposals are going towards more niche specific ones than these general beginner friendly easy ones. Okay, so that's the next thing. I want you to focus on your beginner friendly jobs. And then the last one is I want to make sure that you're focusing on small scope projects. So again, we're looking for those quick and easy wins. And there's more than just, it's not just that we're focusing on small scope projects because that's the only sort of job you can land right now. This is also for your benefit, because the whole idea of this is we want you to land multiple jobs in rapid succession so that we can start filling your feed with 5-star reviews, written testimonials from clients, getting those stat numbers up as quickly as we can as far as how many jobs you've done. And so if every time you're going and applying for week-long, month-long jobs, or a client that wants to continue to do ongoing work, all you're doing is hand tying yourself on building that momentum. So I want you to focus on stuff. These should be jobs that you can complete in hours, not days or weeks. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that if you get a response, you have to turn it around that night and get it back to them just because it's a 2-hour job. It may take you a day or two or three. That's fine. Like if you're going to deliver it over the course of a couple of days, that's fine. But as far as the actual time that you need to spend to work and deliver what you're trying to give them, I don't want this to be something that takes you days or weeks of labor, right? It's fine if it takes days to deliver it, but it should be measured in hours. We should be shooting for stuff that's 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, not stuff that's 2 days or a week to complete. All right. So that's the final one. And then when you're done, you can see there's little confetti that goes here. And then when you're done with this checklist and you're ready for the next one, you just hit this reset button and you're back to the beginning. So that is your free resource for this week. I'm going to stop my share so that I can come back and talk to you here. As I mentioned, if you haven't done 10 days to paid yet, if you're interested in freelancing specifically on Upwork, again, I walk you through every possible thing that you need in order to get started, along with a growing library of tools, just like this checklist. And if you're not in this beginner community yet of Freelance with Erica, I highly, highly recommend that you come join our free beginner community, because the final thing that I want to touch on here, and a way that I want to help continue to support people that are trying to get their start on Upwork, is that if you are going through this program, if you are watching the courses, if you are following the tutorials, if you are sending out your proposals, if you get up to the point that you have sent out 20, 25, and you're still not getting back responses, and I'd say that it's been at least a week, that you've given things a week, just because there is a delay sometimes from sending out proposals to clients getting around to responding and hiring. But if it's been a week and you've sent out 20, 25 proposals and you're still not getting any responses, I want to offer to personally help you do a proposal review to see if we can help figure out and troubleshoot what are some ways where we can up the chances of you getting responses more quickly, and just like this checklist, like give you as many tools as possible to try and help get that momentum going quicker. So inside the free community in Substack, there is we have a private group chat that's part of the community. It is not the most robust or fancy chat forum, but it works for the purposes. And so there's a thread inside of there for 10 days to paid Upwork challenge support. And that is where I'm doing profile reviews for people, helping giving advice on your profile. But I also want to start doing proposal reviews. So if you followed, if you've hit 20, 25, you're not getting a response, you're starting to feel frustrated or demoralized, come tap me in. Let me put eyes on it and let me help you. So I will personally look through your proposal tracker. So again, this is making sure you're actually doing the things in the course though, right? So you need to be keeping track of your proposals in the proposal tracker. I'll have you send me your proposal tracker so that I can look at the types of jobs that you're applying to. And then I also will review your actual proposals going out so that I can try and see if there are some trends or ways that we can try and tighten that up to help you get a better response rate. So literally you have no excuse. You have every possible thing that you need, that if you have ever thought, maybe I should try freelancing, or it would be great to freelance, but I just don't think it would work. You have everything in your arsenal now to get started, start landing your first clients, get your first proposals, or get your first 5-star reviews, and get paid. All right. And it's all 100% for free. So I hope to see you inside the free community. I will be back in your inbox next Tuesday with another Tuesday training. And in the meantime, I will be in our Substack group, checking in and trying to help where I can. So very excited to chat with you guys inside of there. And I hope everyone else has a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next week. All right. Bye guys.